It was fall, my favorite time of the year, October even. Something about this time of year always makes me happy. The cool crisp in the air, leaves flutter like dying embers. Maple trees and oaks blaze in the hues of fire, ambers, rust, and deep crimson. Pumpkins sitting on patios, decorations everywhere you look. The sun low, casting everything in honeyed light. It is the moments like this where the world becomes my own personal fantasy. Well, that's what I would like to tell you. But the truth is, the past few months have tempered my mood. Sleeping used to be a place I drifted into. Now it's a chore. No, it's a necessity I have come to dread. My room was filled with empty coffee mugs and a laptop that never turns off. They say it's called sleep paralysis. I asked that of ChatGPT once. It says it's the inability to move, often paired by vivid hallucinations, that it can be a frightening experience. I cannot express how much of what it says is an understatement. I spend most of my time, day and night, drinking coffee, and anything else I can do to keep awake. You see, I have these nightmares. This is when it all began. My husband died in a freak accident. It was just a normal, beautiful, sunny day. My husband was in good spirits that morning. He was off to meet up with a friend of his to go camping in the northern part of Idaho. He had been planning this for a few months, even took a week off for it. He was one of those pretend rugged survivalists. He loved the outdoors, but he was like a house cat pretending to be in the jungle in the backyard. It does make me smile just thinking about it, thinking about him. Yet, I will never forget the blue lights flashing in my window and the knock at my door at 3 a.m. My world crumbled as I was told my husband drove off a cliff into a river. The officer's voice slowly grew distant. I could feel my mind slipping, falling into an abyss of reality. I was everywhere and nowhere at the same time. My husband didn't drink or do drugs, or anything that could cloud his senses. He was a good driver. He wouldn't even look at his phone unless he was at a full stop. In fact, nothing in the investigation could explain as to why he suddenly veered off the road. There was no indications of another vehicle, and there was a large hill on the left side of him, so even an animal darting out didn't make any sense. No skid marks, just nothing. I don't know. He's dead, and I'm just trying not to be inside. My son has not been the same either. Once he was lively, always the center of attention. But as of late, he's become sullen, withdrawn. He hardly ever speaks to me. It breaks my heart, but I try to remain strong for him. Each day is a struggle, but I try to live a normal life, even for his sake. Grief does strange things. I do not even remember much of the funeral, if anything. This house is quieter now. It's too quiet. It's 5 a.m., still dark enough outside. I'm working on my third cup of coffee. The nightmares are getting worse. Sleep deprivation isn't helping. I'm starting to see things even when I'm awake. It is not just the visions anymore. I no longer just see things, I can feel it. Like death's cold grasp clawing deep into the core of me. I've got to get it together. Every time I sleep, I see this thing, this demon, this apparition, something. It's never quite the same, but it always has red eyes, sometimes large and animalistic, other times small and possibly human, like it knows me, like it's waiting. Dawn broke. A thin mist clung to the ground like a breath held too long. The house was silent, and dew glistened on the uncut grass. The trees beyond stood still, like frozen silhouettes. The golden light washed over my face, eyes closed. The warmth touched my skin gently, like a warm memory. Exhaling with relief, not sobbing, not breaking, just breathing. The world is waking, and birds began to sing. The sun rising higher and higher, in its rare moments where I did not feel coldness inside. The bacon sizzled softly in the pan, the smell of it greasy and familiar. It filled the kitchen, and it almost felt like a memory of normalcy. For once, I wasn't thinking about shadows or dreams, just breakfast. My son shuffled in, his hair a messy halo. He was 16, but he looked so small and frail. Grief had really impacted him. "Morning," I said gently, setting a plate in front of him. He just stared at it, fork in hand, but after a moment he whispered,
"I'm not really hungry."
I sat across from him, wrapping my hands around my mug of coffee. "That's okay. You can just sit with me. That's enough." He glanced up, his eyes rimmed with exhaustion. "Mom?" "Yes, sweetheart." He hesitated, his lips pressed together before finally asking,
"Do you think Dad watches us?"
The question punched the air from my lungs. I tried to hold steady, tried to be a pillar he needed. "I like to think so," I said, forcing a small smile. "I think he'd want to make sure we're okay." My son didn't smile back. He just poked at his eggs and muttered, "Sometimes I feel him." I opened my mouth, but nothing came. Before I could press him, he just dropped his fork, sliding off the chair, retreating back towards the stairs. "I'm tired," he said. I sat alone in silence at the kitchen, that one phrase echoing in my skull. Sometimes I feel him. Later that afternoon, as the light began to fade into the soft grays of the evening, there came a knock at the front door. Sharp and hollow. I froze mid-step. Visitors were rare these days. My heart thudded as I moved towards the door, each knock ringing louder in my chest than in the house itself. I pulled it open. Nothing. The porch was empty. The street beyond was still. Leaves scuttled along the sidewalk in the cold breeze, but there wasn't a soul in sight. Not a car, not even a neighbor's dog that usually barked at the shadows. Just stillness. That stillness pressed against me as I stood there, the air biting cold. I felt, watched. A crawling sensation traced the back of my neck, as though someone lingered just out of my sight, waiting. I closed the door quickly, locking it, my breath uneven, my reflection in the hallway mirror looking pale, foreign. As I began to walk away, the knock came again. I spun around, but this time it wasn't from the door. Before I could scream, a familiar voice called, "Hey, it's me." Through the glass by the door, I saw the blurred outline of my friend Sarah waving. She looked concerned. She always looks concerned these days. Relief surged through me so fast it made me dizzy. I unlocked the door and she stepped in, carrying a bag of groceries. Her smile soft but strained. "You okay? You look like you've seen a ghost." I forced a laugh, but my hands wouldn't stop trembling. We had small talk, with her trying her best to cheer me up. Later she left, and immediately the house felt empty. Later that night, as I was settling in, my son had gone to bed early, and I sat curled up on the couch, staring blankly at the flickering TV. Shadows bent and stretched along the walls in ways they shouldn't, and every light bulb in the house seemed to hum too loudly. Sometime past midnight, I heard it. A creak upstairs. Then another, slow and deliberate. I muted the TV. I climbed the stairs going to my son's room, heart hammering, telling myself it was nothing, just an old house shifting in the night. I opened his door slowly, and he was asleep, curled beneath his blanket, safe and quiet. But the closet door was open. I could have sworn I shut it earlier. As I stepped closer, the air grew cold, a deep, biting chill that spread through the room. Inside the closet was nothing but darkness, impossibly thick. I reached for the handle to close it, but in the silence of the room, I heard it. A faint whisper.
"Mom."
I spun, staring at my son, sound asleep. His lips hadn't moved. His chest rose and fell in slow, steady rhythms. The whisper came again from the closet.
"Mom."
I slammed the door shut, nearly tripping backwards. My hand shook so badly, it took me 3 tries to turn the light off and leave the room. But even as I crawled into my own bed, I swore I could hear the faintest of knocks from inside the walls. The morning came quiet, almost gentle. Pale sunlight sifted through the curtains, catching dust motes in slow motion. I made myself coffee, and stood at the window for a while looking at the Halloween decorations outside, while the warm steam hit my face. I sat in deep thought, contemplating. Last night felt real. For the first time, I was starting to question myself if this is really in my head. Shaking the cobwebs from my mind, I looked in the direction of the stairs. My son was still asleep, 16 and impossible to wake before noon. Unless the world was on fire, I let him be. I pulled a basket of laundry into the living room. I set about folding t-shirts, socks, towels, the mundane, repetitive, almost soothing. That's when my hand brushed fabric that made my chest tighten. A red and black flannel, my husband's. I froze. Fingers pressed to the worn cotton. I had given them away months ago, after the funeral, when I couldn't bear to see them draped across the back of a chair. Yet here it was, folded neatly among the clothes. I lifted it slowly. It smelled faintly of pine and wood smoke, as if he'd just come from one of his survivalist trips. I pressed it to my face, and for a moment, just a moment, I let myself imagine he was still alive. When I lowered it, it was no longer flannel. It was a soaking wet towel, sagging heavy in my hands, dripping river water onto my bare feet. The smell of mud and algae hit me in the gut. I staggered back, dropping it to the floor, spreading a puddle that crept across the hardwood as dark as oil. And then I saw it. My breath hitched, and then just as suddenly, it was gone. The towel lay dry, folded neatly where I had dropped it. I tried shaking it off. I made another pot of coffee, put on a podcast and did some busy work, anything to keep moving. By early afternoon, I stepped outside, raking the yard. The air was crisp, leaves crunching underfoot, the sun warm enough to keep the chill at bay. It almost felt safe, until I noticed it. A figure, standing at the far tree line. It was small, crouched, too black for a shadow, as if it absorbed the light. Two red eyes glowed faintly in the daylight. I blinked, and it was gone. I dropped the rake, heart pounding, scanning the yard. Leaves skittered across the grass. No one was there. Went back inside and unlocked the door. By evening, the house felt restless. I checked the kitchen, the living room, empty. When I turned back, every framed photo of Michael, my husband, was laying face down on the hallway floor. Every one of them. My pulse slammed in my ears. I crouched, reaching to lift one, when a whisper brushed past my ear.
Mom.
I froze. The voice came again.
Mom.
I turned, trembling. It came from upstairs. I crept up, and each step a gunshot in the silence. My son's door was ajar. I pushed it open slowly. He was sprawled on his bed, earbuds in, hoodie pulled over his face, laptop screen glowing faint blue. Asleep, obviously. The closet door was wide open again. Inside, something shifted. The darkness was too thick, rolling like smoke. Two red eyes fixed, staring at me. Then the door slammed shut. I screamed, stumbling backward into the hallway. My son jerked awake, ripping out his earbuds. "What the hell, Mom?" My chest heaved. "Didn't you see it?" "See what?" His face was pale, eyes darting once quickly towards the closet. And for the briefest instance, just long enough to chill me through, I saw his pupils flashed red. The storm rolled in heavy, the sky pressing low with bruised purples and grays. The air inside the house felt electric, each breath sharp with static. I found my son at the kitchen table, shoulders hunched over, hoodie pulled tight around his head. His cereal sat soggy and untouched. "You're quiet this morning," I said carefully. He didn't look at me. He just traced circles into the condensation on his glass of milk. Finally, he whispered, "You saw it too, didn't you?" My chest tightened. The thing in my room," his voice cracked raw. "You saw it." I swallowed hard. Yes. He exhaled, long and shaky. I wasn't going to say anything. I thought it was just me. His hand tightened around the glass until I thought it might shatter. But it's not. It's real. I slid into the chair across from him. "What does it want?" He stared at his lap. "Sometimes it looks like Dad. Sometimes it doesn't. But it always has those eyes, red like burning coals." His lips trembled. "He tells me I should go with him. Says Dad already did." Tears burned in behind my eyes. "That's not your father. You hear me? It's not him." He finally looked up, and for the briefest instant, I thought I saw his pupils flicker red. He blinked quickly, shaking his head. "Then what is it?" "I don't know," I whispered, "but we will fight it together." By evening, the storm broke loose. Wind howled, shaking the house. The power snapped out, plunging everything into dark silence. I lit the candles, the small flames bending unnaturally, as though something unseen moved around them. At first it was small. A book sliding from the shelf. A chair creaking though no one sat in it. Then louder, 3 hard knocks inside the wall. Both of us froze. The knocks repeated, closer this time, traveling along the wall through the kitchen towards the living room. I grabbed his hand, pulling him closer. "Stay with me." Then the TV snapped on. No power, but it glowed anyway. Static roared, loud enough to rattle the windows. On screen, a car was sinking beneath the black water, headlights glowing faint before fading. Michael's car, my husband. I staggered forward. "Michael!" The screen warped, hissed, and then his face slammed against the glass. Bloated, pale eyes staring wide. His voice hollowed through the static, screaming my name. "Mom, stop!" My son yanked me back. His face was ashen, terrified. "It's not him." The lamps flickered violently. One by one they exploded, glass scattering across the floor. The candles guttered and died. And then we weren't alone. A shadow detached from the corner, small and crouched, eyes burning red. It skittered across the wall, limbs bending too fast, too sharp. I screamed, dragging my son into the hallway. But the shadow followed, darting along the ceiling like a spider, laughing, bubbling silently from its black mouth. But the pictures of Michael that lined the hallway wall, every single one of them, flipped over, falling in unison. A massive paranormal spider blocked the hallway. The air filled with sounds of unnatural chittering and clicking. The shadow leapt, landing in the center of the hallway, dripping river water, before twisting into something skeletal, hollow. Its eyes flared brighter. Lightning cracked outside, illuminating the windows. Then darkness. Silence. The shadow was gone, but the house didn't feel empty. It felt like it was holding its breath, waiting. We had tried every door, every window, to escape the prison we were held in. Nothing happened since. As it went past midnight, we could hear the storm building with intensity outside. The house groaned in darkness, arcs of lightning casting brief shadows as we huddled together in fear. Moments of sleep would catch us unwillingly as our eyes grew heavy. Time went by. and it was past midnight. The storm reached its maniacal peak. Wind tore at the shutters. Thunder rattled the windows. The whole house shook as if it were threatened to be ripped from its foundation. Then the front door blew open with a deafening crash. Rain whipped across the floor, papers flying. It was chaos. In the doorway, silhouetted by lightning, stood the figure. My husband's voice twisted through static.
He's already mine.
I moved to stand in front of my son. As I moved, I glanced back and he was gone. He was standing in the middle of the room, soaked, hair plastered to his forehead, as if though he'd been outside. Water dripped from his fingertips, pooling at his feet, and his eyes glowed. His own and something guttural beneath. The lights overhead exploded one by one, showering glass, fists pounding from inside the walls, hundreds of them, shaking the house until the floor split with a terrible crack. Black water, soot, surged from beneath the boards, flooding the room in seconds. It was icy, thick, reeking of river silt. I clutched him, pulling him against me, the water rising to my chest. "I won't let go," I cried. Its mouth opened too wide, and darkness spilled out. The water rose higher, dragging us down. My son clung to me, trembling, and for a moment, just a moment, a beautiful moment, his eyes cleared. He looked like my boy again. "Mom," he whispered, breaking. "Please, please don't let go." The earth shook, and the wind ripped the house apart around us. I woke to sunlight. The storm was gone. The house was dry, clean, and still. For a dizzying moment, I thought it all had been a nightmare. And then I heard it, spoons clicking against a bowl. I staggered into the kitchen. My son was sitting there, at the table, eating cereal like nothing had happened. Relief nearly shattered me. Tears blurred my eyes. I ran to him, clutching his shoulders. He looked up at me, smiling quizzically. "Mom, what's wrong? Are you okay?" I looked at him in shock. His face spoke volumes. He had no memory of what occurred. His soul was at peace. He was my son again. I sat in silence, trying to grasp my sanity, if I had any at all. I questioned if stress and the lack of sleep had broken my mind. No, it's okay. I'm just really tired." He beamed with his familiar smile that I have not seen in ages. It gave me warmth to my heart. "Mom," he said, with a sound of innocence. "Yes, son." His grin widened, stretching a bit too far. Dad says hi."